Hbm Office 5521 Business Report, private room. Today is day 11 June 2021. We will have the movement as the continuity of things that we are doing, and it's an independent research, an academic effort. We will have on mind quite clear the observation at the board and how this model can help you to understand cohesive arguments inside your functionality, inside your function, structure, or system. Take advantage of different sides that combine as a vectorial composition must set something like this, but the field as resulting with internal failure indeed is a cohesive argument that will have as result the decreasement of capacity to have the vectorial result as itself. And then you will have this loss if this loss got noticed, or you consider this something that you can take advantage all the time, of course, that you have this as a model. And indeed it's not a business model, it's not a public political model, it's a model for advantage. In a clandestine way is a list pathway, which is a list advantage scheme. It's generally named corruption. The corruption is the premise of transnational organized crime associated with the local crime that committed systematic abuses, considering the moment right now as trying to have the monitoring procedure of my activity, my private life and all things presented as industrial crime by espionage and sabotage, changing the issues or the argument at this research to have any kind of support to be offered as drip information by payment as observed at the top level of the prosecution in Rio de Janeiro and others for criminal groups. And then we will observe that indeed this model presents an area here which is my third vector as x, y, and z, which a regressive model. I can consider this area as the premise or the reasons that I have to present or expose my arguments. And sometimes I will do this in a terrible way, considering the conjuncture around the globe as something like this, as you could observe: distortion and government, cooperative area and states, not square all circles, integration Venn diagram. Give me the most promiscuous area which must be under martial trial, international. And then you have the institutional role of the NATO, considering the Security Forum Brazil, USA, full legitimacy to act, second nationality is Portuguese, full legitimacy to act. Intention that you have in our institution, Brazil or around the globe, sometimes as a null, empty value, as you can observe, have this empty value transferred to the first premise as application of the law that will integrate or be connected with the second premise, which can be the application of the Constitution or something like this. The minor regulatory field as first premise, the second as major regulatory field as conformance that you must have in present. All unable to do this, all unable to have the proper tax declaration on present time, considering the institutional area, considering the institutional area and cooperative and private environment. We could have this model in the same way, which is the Ponzi scheme as Venn diagram associated with corruption in the coalition, different groups associated with the driver, then having minor fields associated with this area here, which indeed will be presented as a channel, the driver, the channels, the doors to get inside or open, or having the open window, broken window inside the institution, have the systematical and the incremental structural design of the transnational organized crime around the globe happen on east, south, and west, and it's like this. Then we could observe that the database sigma by the approach which industrial project that you have that you violated in Brazil, and you will suffer the 33 trillion charge as consequence of this, give me this notion as the end reality, and I can have the decreasement of perception by stimulative or the increasement of perception as estimative could have this, for instance, that inflation, Brazil economical index and others. Consider that you have one standard for the population, another one for the raising salary of the authorities at the top level, and you have a top-down corruption problem in this scam, and a lot of crimes from the top to the bottom, subjugate and have oppressive engineers and manichaeism to force people to get inside this criminal scam. This indeed is, the economy will call this as a business cycle, and in the financial area you will have this as a registry of this business cycle as a cash flow. And you have the decreasement of actives, sometimes having or preparing their loss as a discount police, which it's not your real price, to have the replacement or the integration with values that you consider receive in the next moment. This was observed at the COVID-19 and was pretty observed. Now we will have the destruction of this model as COVID-19, considering the Ponzi scam associated with electoral frauds, electoral crimes, violation of civil rights, because you do not have the right to have the proper information about the death case, treatment, and all things. It's like this. We are having the holograph business model, a research, an academic research, a product, a service, whatever, that you committed violations in Brazil and you are not able to assume your mistake. So you'll be forced under a constriction against the institution and variables inside, and you should protect and not have the strike against the citizen and the Brazilian people, because we offered a model and was a clear model, effective and international, to have discharge against specific variables by the hand, having contracts on bank account, budget decision, and contracts with signatures. We are not targeting the Brazilian population for sure, because they are maybe victims of this in some way. It's a model as corruption from the top to the bottom. This area here is the area that will be under the Marshall trial and must be under the Marshall trial. We have drivers of this activity as the FBI, the NATO, the Interpol, and you have the back office as the society, individuals, and the OECD for sure. Then we will observe that we had this situation here, which could have before, the origination of the database Sigma, and you have the violation of this research, at least since from the prospection as project, and on present time you have this, which is your charge at the causal bound that you'll be using to put you in jail because you are a criminal, and then you are an international criminal. You will observe that I have my COVID-19 and I have the approach, considering the utilitarian use of corruption at the previous moment, storage of schedules, considering the sports event, FIFA and the Olympics, interval of observation, geopolitical area, Brazil, geopolitical instrument, public budget, Brazil, 2012-2021. Repressive control didn't able to happen by the top-down corruption scams that you had. Preventive control, 21 up to 2028, we will get Asia, Europe, and America. It's the COVID-19. The first bubble is the coalition, and this coalition indeed is the integration of two life forms, let's say a virus and a bacteria, and I will call the virus and the bacteria VBA, value business evaluation. The virus, I would say, is my public corruption, because we have the continuity as tax payment by the citizen, and they have kind of a lot of situation, and even if you have no movement, you are having a movement, because it's something that will continue to bacteria is the corporative area, to both having the evaluation as corruption. Is the VBA. The corruption of both integrated indeed is a coalition. I will call now this as A, driver public corruption, A, small area, interface as corporative area corruption. And then I have formed myself as virus COVID-19, distribution of segments that consider be under influence by the internal division and redistribution of resource considering the illicit storage of illicit advantage that you take or took or are taking. It's something like this. You can have a capital letter or a small letter. And this sampling distribution, which indeed is not sampling but oriented by the failure, has internal failure in a systems that points you to systemic distribution of failure according with interest, to have the association of this area. For instance, let's suppose here I have South America. Here I have the countries of prevalence of scams as a small letter public corruption, or a capital letter as public corruption, or a small letter as corporative corruption. Now I will have here the Asia or Europe with the same thing as coalition scam, the lines that will be pointed as association, at field of interest as interface, considering the redistribution of values based on the associative level that you have inside this transnational organized scheme based on corruption. The distribution is a capital letter, a small letter, a small letter, a capital letter. Then they will have approach each other as something like this, AA, and you set a new cluster of criminal activity, and this will happen, go on and on and on. The integration of scheme will form the conjuncture for criminal purpose with signatures very specific at the tax stimulus, all under flagrant delict. In the same way, all embassies. I'm not an embassy member, I'm just a citizen, a regular citizen, and this is the holographic business model. And we for sure have this as a disease pandemic even. We will have our curative and prophylaxis, I would say, which is have two global companies, because if this is a global scam, international, transnational, consider the types of level of association that you have. I will have my first company, which indeed had a distortion and problems inside. The second drive as the other company, I consider the I consider the IBM, the American Telegraph and Telephone Act on registering the international business machine, do business and do business for real. We have some areas here as pattern of control considering the FBI and the OECD, for instance. And then we have the middle, we put the FBI inside, connection here, at the middle control, internal control at the company, and with the environment, internal control, the company with the environment. You have contracts with my company, and these two companies together indeed is something like this, which is a pill or a bean that for sure is a curative thing. And we are solving the problem one more time. We have the summit, I think that it's on Europe with the European Bank. They are doing things presented as the right thing, at least a purpose, which is do the economy in a proper way with regulatory, fighting the criminal as a problem. Have a nice day. I mean, weekend.